What if the foods you eat every day could quietly reinforce what your amlodipine is already doing, lowering your blood pressure more effectively, without increasing the dose? You take the same pill every day, morning or night. But here's what almost no one talks about. The foods you eat alongside that pill can either support its effect or work against it. Amlodipine relaxes your blood vessels by blocking calcium channels, but some everyday foods boost nitric oxide naturally. Some flush out sodium and ease fluid retention, and others improve arterial elasticity over time. When you combine these foods with your medication consistently, the impact can be surprisingly strong. Clinical studies have shown improved vascular function, lower blood pressure readings, and better long-term heart health when the right dietary pattern is paired with medication. And here's the best part. These aren't exotic superfoods. They're everyday ingredients you can find in any grocery store. Today, we'll break down 7 powerful, evidence-based food groups that support amlodipine's effect, each through a different pathway inside your body. Some work fast, others build quietly in the background. Together, they help your arteries relax and keep your pressure more stable. Before we dive in, an important reminder. This video is for educational purposes only. It's not medical advice. Always talk to your doctor before making changes to your medication or diet. Let's start with leafy greens, like spinach, kale, arugula, and lettuce. They might look ordinary, but inside your body, they trigger one of the most powerful natural blood pressure-lowering mechanisms we know. Here's how. Leafy greens are packed with inorganic nitrate. Your body converts this nitrate into nitric oxide, a signaling molecule that tells your blood vessels to relax and widen. The result? Better endothelial function, lower vascular resistance, and improved blood flow. Clinical evidence shows their effect can be modest, but real. In a randomized controlled trial of 243 adults aged 50 to 70, 5 weeks of leafy green supplementation containing 300 milligrams of nitrate per day didn't significantly change 24-hour ambulatory systolic pressure compared to placebo. About minus 0.5 millimeters of mercury versus minus 0.6 millimeters of mercury. But interestingly, potassium nitrate pills in the same study lowered clinical systolic pressure by 4.3 millimeters of mercury, showing that when nitrate conversion is optimal, the effect can be meaningful. Other meta-analyses confirm this. Nitrate-rich vegetables improve vascular markers and can support small reductions in blood pressure over time, especially when eaten regularly as part of a balanced diet. So think simple. A serving of spinach in your smoothie, kale in your salad, or lightly steamed greens with dinner. It's not a quick fix, but a steady, physiologic boost that works quietly alongside your medication. Next up, beetroot. This one works fast, sometimes within just a few hours. Beetroot is one of the richest natural sources of dietary nitrate, even more concentrated than most leafy greens. Once you drink beetroot juice or eat cooked beets, that nitrate is converted into nitric oxide, which tells your blood vessels to relax and widen. This boosts blood flow, lowers peripheral resistance, and helps bring blood pressure down. The evidence here is solid. Multiple meta-analyses show that beetroot juice can lower systolic blood pressure by about 4 to 5 millimeters of mercury, and diastolic by 2 to 3 millimeters of mercury, often within hours to days of ingestion. The effect is most consistent when beetroot is consumed regularly, because nitric oxide production depends on keeping nitrate levels steady in the body. The best part? You don't need huge amounts. Even a small daily glass of beetroot juice, or adding roasted beets to meals, can provide enough nitrate to support your blood pressure alongside amlodipine, without changing the medication dose. Now let's talk about flaxseed, one of the most underrated tools for blood pressure control. It doesn't work overnight, but when used consistently, its impact can be surprisingly meaningful, Flaxseed is packed with alpha-linolenic acid, fiber, and lignans. Together, these compounds reduce inflammation, improve endothelial function, and modulate the sympathetic nervous system, all of which help bring blood pressure down over time. Unlike nitrate-rich foods that act quickly, flaxseed works more slowly by improving the internal environment of your blood vessels. The evidence backs this up. A meta-analysis of randomized trials found that flaxseed supplementation lowered systolic blood pressure by about 2 to 6 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 1 to 3 millimeters of mercury, with the strongest effects seen in people who already had hypertension. These improvements were measured over several weeks to months of regular intake. Adding ground flaxseed to your breakfast yogurt, oatmeal, or smoothies is an easy way to get a steady dose. Just 1 or 2 tablespoons daily can support your blood pressure quietly in the background, working alongside your medication. Here's a pleasant surprise. Dark chocolate, when it's at least 70% cocoa, isn't just a treat. It can actually support better blood vessel function. The secret lies in flavonoids, plant compounds that stimulate nitric oxide production, improve endothelial function, and reduce vascular resistance. Unlike sugary milk chocolate, high cocoa dark chocolate provides a concentrated dose of these bioactive compounds, without the extra sugar and fat that can cancel out the benefits. Clinical evidence is surprisingly consistent. Randomized controlled trials and Cochrane reviews have shown that eating high flavanol dark chocolate can lower systolic blood pressure by about 2 to 4 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 1 to 2 millimeters of mercury over several weeks. The effect is modest, but real, and works through the same nitric oxide pathway that amlodipine targets pharmacologically. Think of it as a small daily bonus. A square or two of quality dark chocolate can give your arteries a gentle push toward relaxation, as part of a balanced diet, not as a replacement for medication. Next up is something simple and surprisingly powerful: hibiscus tea. This deep red herbal tea isn't just refreshing, it's been studied for its real impact on blood pressure. Hibiscus contains anthocyanins and other plant antioxidants that help relax blood vessels. It also has a mild diuretic effect, helping your body flush out sodium and fluid, which lowers pressure inside your arteries. Some studies even suggest it has ACE-inhibiting properties, working through a pathway similar to certain blood pressure medications, but in a gentler, natural way. The numbers speak for themselves. Randomized clinical trials have shown that drinking hibiscus tea daily for 4 to 6 weeks can lower systolic blood pressure by 7 to 10 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 3 to 5 millimeters of mercury. These are not placebo effects. They're measurable improvements seen consistently in controlled studies. A warm cup in the morning or evening is all it takes. It's caffeine-free, easy to find, and when paired with amlodipine, it offers an extra, evidence-based layer of blood pressure support. Now let's turn to the sea. Fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, sardines, and trout aren't just good for your heart. They also play a clear role in supporting healthy blood pressure. These fish are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, mainly EPA and DHA. Omega-3s reduce inflammation, improve endothelial function, and help modulate the autonomic nervous system. The result is less vascular stiffness, better vessel relaxation, and improved overall circulation. Effects that complement what amlodipine does pharmacologically. The clinical data is solid. Randomized controlled trials and meta-analyses show that omega-3 supplementation can lower systolic blood pressure by about 2 to 4 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 1 to 3 millimeters of mercury, with the biggest benefits seen in people with existing hypertension. And unlike some interventions that take months, these effects can appear within weeks of regular intake. A simple way to apply this? Aim for 2 servings of fatty fish per week, baked or grilled, not deep-fried. It's a practical, evidence-based step that gives your arteries a steady dose of omega-3 support, working quietly alongside your medication. And finally, let's talk about something simple, familiar, and surprisingly effective: low-fat dairy. It doesn't get as much attention as beets or dark chocolate, but in the clinical world, its impact is hard to ignore. Low-fat dairy provides calcium, potassium, and bioactive peptides. Together, these nutrients promote vasodilation, support sodium excretion, and improve vascular compliance, essentially making your arteries more flexible and less resistant to blood flow. This mechanism aligns beautifully with what amlodipine does pharmacologically, but through nutritional pathways. The best evidence comes from the DASH trial, a landmark study funded by the NIH. Adults with hypertension who followed a DASH diet rich in fruits, vegetables, and low-fat dairy saw their systolic blood pressure drop by 11.4 millimeters of mercury and diastolic by 5.5 millimeters of mercury in just 8 weeks. That's comparable to the effect of many first-line blood pressure medications. In practice, that could mean a cup of low-fat milk, a serving of yogurt, or some cottage cheese with meals. It's simple, accessible, and clinically proven to support blood pressure control, especially when combined with medication. We've now covered 7 evidence-based food groups that can work with your amlodipine, not against it. Leafy greens and beetroot supply natural nitrates that boost nitric oxide and relax your arteries. Flaxseed works quietly in the background, improving vascular function over time. Dark chocolate gives a gentle nitric oxide lift through flavonoids. Hibiscus tea lowers pressure through vasodilation, diuresis, and mild ACE inhibition. Fatty fish deliver omega-3s that reduce inflammation and keep vessels flexible. And low-fat dairy, as proven in the DASH trial, can bring pressure down dramatically through nutritional pathways. Here's the key: none of these replace medication, but together they support the same cardiovascular pathways that amlodipine targets, helping you achieve better blood pressure control in a natural, sustainable way. Start simple. Add 1 or 2 of these foods into your routine, and build from there. Small changes, done consistently, add up over time. If you found this helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to MedDose Explained. That way, you won't miss upcoming videos on blood pressure, medications, and evidence-based nutrition. And don't stop here. Watch our next video on foods to avoid with amlodipine. It connects directly to everything we covered today. For full references, including clinical trials, meta-analyses, and guideline sources, check the description below.